So, the Division 2, a lot of people were losing hope with this game, and I have to say, I wasn't ready to quite give up on it. Division 2 had a strong launch, but over time, the game has shown more and more cracks when it comes to the end game. The 1 to 30 experience was absolutely phenomenal. All the different missions, the loot progression, the gear score progression was all phenomenal, and it really seemed like they knocked this game out of the park. But as you played it a little bit more, you started to see the cracks that I was talking about, where there was no rare legendary gear to go for. Exotics were time gated and locked behind certain activities. And overall, the loot and the RNG was just absolutely atrocious. There are so many different weapons, so many different brand sets, so many different gear sets. It was hard to get the things that you wanted. So you would get on for hours and hours and never progress, and this kind of sucks. Today, I'm going to tell you why I think the Division 2 still has a chance. There was a state of the game earlier today. You're actually watching this video a day later, but I wanted to make sure that I covered everything and gave my opinions on everything. I could easily just, spew out a video immediately after state of the game, but I want to make sure that I'm letting you guys know fully what I think of each individual change that's coming to the Division 2. And I honestly have to say that the future of the Division 2 is looking pretty bright. The changes that they talked about today on State of the Game concerning loot are absolute game changers, and I want to share that with you guys today. So, the first thing that I want to go over that I just mentioned is that we have no rare items to go for. Exotics are not like they were in the Division 1. In the Division 1, an exotic had a set talent, and then it had 2 random rolls, and then on top of that, there was, the actual roll of the gun as well. So same thing with exotic gear pieces, it had random rolls. So getting one gear piece, one exotic wasn't usually enough. You could always keep hunting for that perfect roll. So it gave you thousands and thousands of hours to go for the stuff that you wanted, and that made the game really fun and really replayable. But in the Division 2, we don't have that. Exotics are basically more of collectible trophies than anything else because they're tied to certain quests. And once you get it, there's usually no reason to ever want or, to even get another one. Once you upgrade those weapons, once you get the blueprints to max, they have max rolls and they have static rolls, which means every single drop that you get when it comes to the pestilence, like for example, because that drops in the dark zone, or the merciless that drops in, I think it's on hyena bosses, you will never have to get one again if you get a max gear score item. And that kind of sucks. Like, obviously, it's nice to have something that's perfectly rolled, but that takes the whole reason of going for those rare items over and over again. So what they talked about today is that they're adding a new legendary rarity called name items. Named items are already in the game, and named items were essentially what exotics were in the Division 1 before they came exotics. But how the named items are in Division 2 right now are exactly how they were when it first came out. I'm talking about like the Midas, the Liberator. If you remember those weapons in super early days of the Division 1, they had set rolls. The only difference is that they had, those exact rolls each time that item dropped. And that kind of sucks, because that's kind of the exotics that we have now. And I think the exotics are good at what they're doing right now, to give people reasons to do certain quests and to earn a special piece that you can use in your gear that can open up a bunch of build opportunities for your build. But it doesn't give you that rare legendary drop. I remember asking Frederick a long time ago, if you guys don't know Frederick Thailander, he works on the loot. I asked him, I said, what is the legendary rarity in this game? What would you say is that legendary item that you would get in something like Diablo, where you see that nice orange beam drop and you're like, whoa, that's a legendary. Let me go check it. Let's see what it has. Let's see if it's better than the one that I already have. Let's see if it's got a god roll. And he couldn't give me an answer. He said that he agrees that, the exotics in the game aren't that. They're more of like meant to be a collectible, more for something for people to earn and to keep. And, I gave this suggestion to them a long time ago about, well, what if we gave a higher rarity of items that are higher than high ends, and this would be like the Division 1 exotics, and I can't be happier to let you guys know that that's exactly what we're getting. So they said there's about 35 of them that we can expect in the next patch, which is absolutely absurd. That is a crazy amount of them. They're going to drop with a new drop color. I don't know what color this is going to be, but it's going to be cool, and it's going to be very obvious when you get that drop. I hope it's like a special noise that makes you feel really good when you get it, kind of like when you see a legendary in Diablo, or even in the Division 1. If you remember when an exotic dropped, it made like a special noise, gave you like a special indication of, whoa, something rare just dropped. Same thing happens in like almost every looter that you play. Something similar to an exotic dropping in Destiny. It makes like a humming noise, and it's got a big beam coming out of it, and it makes you feel good about getting that drop. So these items are going to be better versions than the high-end items that are in the game. It comes with a fixed third talent, which basically means that that third talent is going to be fixed on that specific named weapon each time. And these fixed rolls are going to be higher than what you're going to see on a high-end talent. So that is crazy. That's going to open up so much more ability for people like me that want to spend a lot of time farming, but also gives, you know, maybe even casual players that will come across these drops. It will give them something special and something excited to look at, because, you know, these items are going to be guaranteed to be better than a high-end item if it's got the right rolls. And that, I cannot tell you how happy this makes me, because this is going to give the players that want to put hours and hours into the game something to always go for. Because basically what you're going to be able to do now is you're going to be able to use your high-end gear to kind of get yourself up to a power that you can basically clear content a little bit faster. I kind of want to use an example right now of a game that I've been playing a ton called Black Desert Online. So Black Desert Online is a super hardcore, grindy Korean MMO that is basically all about grind and putting time in and getting more powerful over time and feeling that power once you get your items. And when you're leveling up through Black Desert Online, there are certain layers of loot that you kind of want to go for so that you can get strong enough to then farm higher level places to then earn more silver. And then eventually you use that silver to either buy boss items, or you can, you know, target farm certain boss items from world bosses or field bosses, that kind of thing. And basically what's going to happen now is, instead of just going straight to high ends and having crazy, crappy RNG on all your high ends, you're going to be able to use those high ends to get through content fast enough so that you can go and search for these named items, these legendary named items. And I can't be happier about that. That is such a good change. And I know some of you guys may be like, but, you know, this is even more RNG. The reason the RNG feels so bad right now in the Division 2 is because there are too many items, there are too many brand sets, and even when you get the perfect roll of a certain brand set or a certain weapon, the difference doesn't feel enough to be worth putting 600 to 1,000 hours for a single item. You know, that difference doesn't feel like it's worth. So what I'm going to talk to you guys next about is what they're doing to allow you to basically target farm for the specific brand sets that you want. Brand sets are also going to be available in all slots, which is huge. If you guys don't know, certain brand sets would only roll in certain slots. I actually talked about this in my loot video a couple months ago. You pretty much need a spreadsheet to see which brand sets roll for, you know, backpacks, for holsters. You know, certain sets don't have those versions of a specific gear slot. So, you know, the example that Hamish used on stream today was like an Heraldi chest piece, like, doesn't exist. And there's no way to know that that doesn't exist unless you bring up that spreadsheet. Well, now, since all brand sets can be in all slots, that's going to give you much more freedom when it comes to your build, because you're not going to specifically need this backpack, this holster, this chest piece. It's not going to be like that anymore. You could put these 3 sets in your holster, your chest piece, and your knee pads, or you could put it in your holster, your knee pads, or your mask. Like, there's going to be so much more ability to build around a certain set or around a certain talent with this improvement. So that is very, very good. And I think that's going to be really good for people that want to feel more options with their build. So another thing that they're adding is a new system, which is basically going to allow you to target farm the items that you want. This is probably the biggest change to this update because, like I said, with all of the different loot that's in the game, the different brand sets, the different weapon types, there's just too much loot, right? There's too much loot to go for this like specific things that you want. And I think a huge reason for this is because a lot of people complained about target looting in the Division 1, but I don't think it was the target looting that people didn't like. It was the way target looting was. The target looting in the Division 1 was a bit flawed because, for example, something like Barrett's chest piece, even though I like when exotics have really low drop chances, having a 1% drop chance on an item that also has a very small chance of having the rolls that you want, considering back then armor was an absolute must, this is going to be a lot better because you're going to be able to target the exact brand set that you want. I'm going to show here on the screen what they showed on State of the Game. Basically, you're going to be able to open up your map and you're going to see which items drop in which name zones, and you're going to be able to go for the exact items that you want. Now, this isn't going to guarantee that you're going to get, the item that you want immediately. You do got to remember that things have random rolls and you're not guaranteed to get those pieces. It just gives you a higher chance of another loot pool that's on top of the loot pool of what you would just get if you were just farming in those areas. So basically what I'm saying is they're giving another loot pool on top of the normal loot pool. Then they're basically toning down the regular loot pool a little bit. So essentially you're going to be getting loot at the same rate that you are now, except it's going to be more loot that you actually want and less junk loot that we talked about. Junk loot is a huge problem in this game. You just always get stuff that you don't want because there's no way to target farm what you want. Now it's going to be a lot different. This is such a good change. If you don't know what I mean by the different named locations, so each part of the map I'll put here on screen. Each part of the map is broken up into certain sections. Each one of these sections are going to have a logo on them. So that means any type of bosses that die in these sections or NPCs, you're going to be able to have a chance to get that specific drop. So that means like open world bosses, that means like, missions, or if you're just doing checkpoints and you want to spawn those bosses, then that's going to be like a guaranteed drop for that area. So that's going to give more incentive for people to go around and maybe even go into certain parts of the map that they don't normally go to. The cool thing about this is it's not actually like Barrett's chest piece where you have to play the same mission over and over for the same item. It'd be as if Barrett's chest piece dropped in Lexington on one day, and then the next day it dropped in, I don't know, Russian consulate. This was actually a suggestion I gave them a while back when it came to global events. I said that it would be nice if the missions rotated throughout the global event to give people a reason to do other missions instead of just running, Columbus Circle over and over again. Or running like, one specific mission like Lexington over and over again, because it's going to change every 24 hours. So every 24 hours, these items are going to be shuffled around the map in a random order. So you're never going to want to be doing the same content over and over again if you want a specific item. It's basically going to allow you to do all of the content and be able to target farm exactly what you want. They did mention that if there's a mission, so for example, some of the missions will start in one location and then they'll move to another location, into a different named area. It's not going to give you all the drops from those areas. It's only going to give you the drop associated that it shows you when you go up to a mission and you start it. So that is so huge because people that know what builds they want to go for and know what pieces that they want, they're going to be able to specifically target those things. And this is such a huge change. And this is going to be so much better for people that want to farm specific things for their build. So that is going to be absolutely crazy. I can't wait for that. The next big change that they're going to be adding to the game is gear sets related. Now, right now, how the gear sets work is they are 6-piece bonuses. You basically have to put the entire gear set on, and there's no room for build diversity, right? Like, so certain gear pieces are going to have set rolls. Like, I think, for example, all of the Patriot pieces only roll a red stat or something like that. I talked about this also in my loot video. And I also talked about how I think that this should go down to 4 pieces. This is exactly what they're doing, and I couldn't be happier, because what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to have more build diversity. Now that gear sets are being dropped to 4 pieces, you're going to be able to mix and match gear pieces more often, because how the gear pieces are and how the gear sets work now is that in order to make a gear set worth building, you pretty much had to put all 6 pieces into it, because the decent talents don't happen until like the 5th and 6th talent. So, for example, you can't mix and match like you did in Division 1 with, like, you know, 3 Striker and 2 Sentry and Savage Gloves. You couldn't do that because you had to go all in on the gear pieces. And this was kind of bad because it killed build diversity. So them going back to 4 pieces is absolutely amazing. I'm sure that this is also going to include those gear sets that are in the game now are going to be toned down a little bit. I'm sure they're going to do some stat squishes to bring them in line with what a 4-piece bonus would be in something like the Division 1. But, you know, that's, I think, okay, because there's going to be tons of new options where you're going to be able to mix and match high ends and maybe even exotics, or maybe even these named rarities that are coming out soon, these name drops. There's going to be so much more room for build diversity, and I couldn't be happier. Another thing that they're changing with the gear sets is that the raid gear sets specifically that only drop in the raid are now going to drop everywhere in the world. So it's not going to be just exclusive to the raid. However, backpacks and the chest pieces on those gear sets and on all the gear sets have special high-end talents now that will roll on them. Now, I believe these roll randomly. I would hope so. And that means that gear sets are going to have more of an identity now. You're going to have to actually check those gear sets when they drop, because you might get a really good one that drops. And those, which are going to be obviously the most powerful versions of that set, are going to stay exclusively to the raid. So this is kind of like a halfway where they basically kept the raid loot in the raid, but also wanted to give it to people who couldn't do the raid. But if you want that really strong chest piece and that backpack, you're going to have to get together and get into that raid. So I feel like that's a good middle ground between the two. I think that's going to be cool. So now that the chest and the backpack roll with special high-end talents, that means that, gear sets, I can see them actually being an option again, which is really good. So the build diversity is going to be crazy in the next patch. So that's going to be really interesting to see. It's going to open up so many new options, so many more builds. So we'll have to see kind of how that pans out. I'm sure, PvP is going to be wildly unbalanced for a bit, but I think it will settle after the PTS, which is coming out in the next couple of weeks, they said. Maybe we'll be able to do a fair bit of testing and kind of see how it goes with those. Hopefully they give us all the loot so we can try all these crazy combinations to really, truly test how the PvP is, which all the PvP news is coming next week. Apparently there's some big changes coming to the Dark Zone. I'm very hopeful that they maybe even increase the player count. I know that's probably unlikely, but I would love to see how they're going to make the Dark Zone feel more populated. And if we get like a Dark Zone increase or maybe even a new Dark Zone, that would be absolutely crazy. But we'll have to wait and see. Apparently there's big news coming. So yeah, that's going to open up probably so many more builds. I can only imagine. And that is pretty much it for gear. Now we're going to talk about the recalibration changes that they're making to the recalibration station. They're doing a complete visual rework of how it works. It should be much easier to see the talents that you have on the loot that you own. Now you're going to pretty much be able to click the specific item that you want, and then you're going to basically click the item that you want to recalibrate, the stat that you want to recalibrate, and then it will be able to just pop up and show you all the items from your other pieces of gear. You won't have to go in, click an item, then click the stat you want to change, and then click the item that you want to change it from. So that's going to be good. I do have a small suggestion though for this. I really, really wish they would bring back the Division 1 recalibration where you basically gamble your money to try to get a higher stat. I think it would be cool if you had an option, right? Like you can either take gear and put a talent into the gear, you know, that you have, or you can gamble and get a random talent, or maybe a couple of random talents with random rolls, and then be able to pick from that. If you're the type of person like me who doesn't like keeping junk loot, I hate keeping junk loot on me, never knowing when I'm going to want a certain talent or a certain roll off that loot. This would be a cool alternative to give people like myself that like to gamble. Like, I loved that about Division 1. I thought it was a cool little thing, and it was exciting when you got the roll that you wanted. I think this would be a cool medium to either choose like a piece of gear to recalibrate, or give you a chance to just roll a slot and give you some options to recalibrate from that. I think that would be really dope. I don't know if that's something they can do. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about that. You know, if you guys have any suggestions and what you think, if you think that's a good idea, let me know in the comment section below. I would absolutely love for them to bring back the Division 1 recalibration as well. I think that this is nice because if you get like a really crap piece of gear, but it has a really good talent on it, it gives you that option to then put it over on another piece of gear. But like I said, for somebody like me who doesn't like just getting completely stacked on junk loot, it would be nice to just kind of roll and give you that little bit of chance to get the thing that you want. And it will give us more things to spend our currency on, right? Like DZ credits or E credits, I think they're called, are just completely useless in this game, man. Like, I can never find a reason to use them, but hopefully them revamping the crafting and the recalibration will allow us to use more of that money. But like I said, I think it would be cool if you also had a gamble option where basically you could just get random stats and pick the one that you want. Anyways, they're also going to allow you to roll more things off of gear than you were able to before. Like, for example, I think this is how certain talents on backpacks like would be specific to a certain slot. They're going to be a little bit more generous with this and allow you to roll more things than you would be able to. But they also talked about how you're going to be able to roll a stat color. This is going to be huge. So say, for example, your build, I talked about this in my loot video as well, talking about how the certain things on gear that are basically requirements that allow you to unlock a talent, it can feel very restrictive because it feels like you're not the one making your build. It feels like the game is making your build for you because it's telling you how many pieces you need to have. This is going to add another layer to that by allowing you to change colors on your gear. So that would mean, like, say, you know, you have some item that's in a green stat, you could only change that to other green items. Well, now you're going to be able to change the color of that roll as well. So that's going to be super crazy, and I think that's going to open up a lot of build opportunities. They also talked about a lot of changes to crafting when it comes to materials, so I'll go over that here. So recalibration costs, I don't think they're being touched. They didn't say anything about it, but the cost of crafting is going way down. It's incredibly expensive. And I think the reason it was so expensive is because there was really nothing to use your credits on. But hopefully they're going to make those vendors, you know, more worth looking through, because right now it's like the clan vendors are like the only things worth looking at because they have like the highest rolls on certain things, which is really stupid. So I'm hoping they talk eventually about a rework on the vendors. I know they did some small changes with the most recent update, but I definitely think there needs to be more things for us to use our money on in this game. So the fact that they're going to reduce the cost of crafting is going to be good because it may actually make crafting worth doing. So also, since you're going to be target farming certain pieces of gear, so say, for example, I go to the Rarity area, which may be near the base of operations, and I go and farm there, and I get a bunch of pieces, but I didn't get the piece I wanted. The good thing is that deconstructing those brands are going to then give me brand materials that I can then, you know, craft with. And that's going to be nice, and I'm going to be able to craft at 500 gear score, and that's going to be great. You're also going to receive polycarbonate from deconstructing items now. You will get more material drops from NPCs. You will also be able to unlock a talent in the base of operations that will basically allow you to material share between each of your characters. And material caps are going up as well and being raised and improved. So some of the areas that give you like one of these specific materials, they usually like would give you one or the other. Now, if you go to target loot those specific materials, it's going to give you both instead. So basically, they're just giving you more materials overall for going around and farming for those materials so that you can craft more. They want to make crafting more viable, and I think this is going to be a good way to do that. One other change that they talked about is that they are going to make it more clear now what blueprints you're missing and what to do to get those blueprints, which is going to be nice for those people out there that don't have blueprints from a certain loot pool and they want to get those. It will tell you exactly what you need to do to unlock those blueprints. So overall, there are a ton, absolute ton of huge changes coming to the Division 2. And I honestly think that this game has a chance. I told you guys I wasn't ready to give up on it. I was disappointed. I know we all were. This game just wasn't what we expected at launch. But it really seems like the developers are working hard and trying their best to get this game back on par with where it was at the end of Division 1's life cycle. And I couldn't be happier with these changes. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, but I think I covered pretty much everything from State of the Game. And I kind of wanted to give you guys my feedback and what I think. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop the video a like, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.